Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coach Steve's Breakdown to Build Up, where I go through sparring videos and point out areas of improvement from our students and things that they can work on to improve their game. Today, we have a special episode. Today, I'm going to be breaking down me. We had a visit from our student who is training in our online program. He's also trained in person with us, but he recently went to university in Europe. And this is a longsword sparring match between him and I. Here I am on the left. He is on the right with the red stripes on his pants, wearing his brand new model Spec Light Jacket. He pretty much beat me down this video, and I think you'll see that here. His improvements have been dramatic. It's very impressive to see. And it pointed out a lot of flaws in my game that I'm going to need to improve upon. So let's begin.
In 2 months.
All right, so I'm going to backpedal right off the cuff here. I back up into my fighting stance, and he moves forward. Right there, that's a show of submission. I backed up, he moved forward. What I should do is press. Mikkel actually does this intrinsically, which is really a great improvement in his game. Anyway, let's continue. Here we go. I move forward. Right there was a heel step, not a great opening. Mikkel responded accordingly. Now, right here, Mikkel is much more mobile than I am. So let's see what happens. Back. You can see. Now, this is something I don't take advantage of. Look at Mikkel's footwork in this exchange. He moves forward, and he's threatened here, and his sword isn't really in a position of threatening me. So I, on the other hand, my sword is forward. It would be really easy for me to shift my weight, press forward with a covered thrust to his body, or to his head, rather, and I do not do this. So let's continue. Nice failure there. All right, here we go. Mikkel finally decides to press the attack. Now he moves in nicely with a threatening shot to my outside line. He's a little forward loaded here, and he stepped on his heel. You notice how the cut comes through before both of his feet hit the ground. Now this means he's not planted, and the cut won't have a whole lot of force. I do not notice this at first because all I can see is a sword coming at me. So that's my mistake. And he capitalizes on that really nicely, and he shifts his position from here to here really nicely. Nice outward step there to gain the angle, and he's in a covered position. My sword here is withdrawn, and he's covering in a high position here to prevent me from coming down on his head. Really nice strategic action, and he comes around, and I, unfortunately, hand parry this. So this is a point for Mikkel. Really, really great strategic position. His feet aren't in a great spot when the cut lands, but overall, as you can see, my posture is leaned back. He's pretty much got me hook, line, and sinker here. And he follows it up with kind of sort of a weak cut to the body. But at the same time, I've stopped moving because he's already smashed me in the hands. And hand parrying is something that we count as a valid strike. Now, we don't encourage sniping to the hands because we don't want to injure our training partners. But if you're sparring and wearing protective equipment, and you hand parry a strike, yeah, you just got hit.
Center up. Good. Nice.
All right, there's the next exchange. Let's backpedal it here. I'm a little too upright at this point for my own liking, so that's something I'm going to work on. There's my proper fighting stance. I'm a little linear. Look at my back heel and the narrowness of my own stance. I don't like that. That's something I got to fix. Now, Mikkel does something really interesting here. I move to bar his sword. Let's just back it up a bit. Now, because my stance is so long, I can really only move in one direction, and that's directly at Mikkel. If I had a wider stance, I would have more dynamic movement, and I'd be able to get a better angle on this. Now, as I come in, we can see Mikkel withdraws his sword. He disengages my bar, which is exactly what you should do in this situation. So kudos to him for doing this. And he is able to mostly defend my incoming strike. Now you can see here, the blade reaches his mask, but this is very insubstantial. This is not a good strike. Even if it does make contact, I wouldn't call this. And Mikkel's defense is correct. His structure is a little broken here, but that's okay. He still manages to guard the vast majority of the strike, which is what he's going to do. Anyway, let's see what happens next. Oh yeah, he comes low and strikes me in the upper thigh as he's withdrawing. And he's still moving back once that lands. So that's great timing for him. Let's just back it up a little bit here. Here comes the block, and there's the low strike. He elevates a little bit. His feet are not in the ideal position, but he's able to withdraw, and he hits me hard enough that it's noticeable. Like, he gets me in the upper leg, which is great. He breaks the structure enough and gives him time to escape. Let's keep going.
I felt it. Yep. Flat. Was it flat? Yeah, just flat. Yeah.
That was a flat strike from Mikkel, so I just mentioned to him that he hit me with the flat of the sword and didn't actually land anything substantial. So we just continued the strike, or sorry, the fight. All right, here's another one. He's beating the crap out of me in this fight. It's lots of fun to see, and I'm really disappointed in myself. But we're gonna improve. I'm gonna improve. This is how I improve. This is how we all improve. All right, so let's backpedal it here. Notice my linear stance again. It's very long. Now, Mikkel is in a reasonably effective wrath position here. His elbow's kind of exposed, but he's out and he's far enough away from me that that's not a threat at the moment. Now, let's see what happens here. I try to go in with a false edge strike. I'm overdrawn. He's able to withdraw, and it's not a threat for him. Now he comes back and he lands a little eclipsing here. Eclipsing is when one foot moves behind the other. Again, this is not terribly risky at this point because he's out of my threatened space, but at the same time, it's worth mentioning because it's not a habit you want to get into. And here we go. He is nice and low in his stance. So am I. We're squaring off. He moves in with a thrust attempt. I respond by coming to the right side. He then fakes in to the cut for a cut with my to my outside line, comes up underneath my sword and guards it and strikes low at me and lands again. Unfortunately, I believe I hand parried that one too, so very disappointed in myself, but great show from Mikkel.
I told you. I'm not that in the trainer won't throw too much. Good.
All right, here we go. Something I actually hit him with. Let's back it up and let's have a look at this. So Mikkel comes back into his stance, a little bit more confident. My stance is a bit better here. My toes aren't pointing at him, but it's a wider, it's a less narrow stance. It's not as long, so I'm not as unstable. Now Mikkel comes in with a thrust and attempts to start my blade aside, or rather bar my blade aside. I come up underneath and I'm able to come from my outside line in, so my upper right into his sword, which knocks it aside and strikes him at the same time. So up here, he comes in very linearly when he does this, not a lot of lateral movement. You can see he's running right at me, doesn't move to the side. He moves in a straight line towards me instead of coming offline, and he would have had a better angle of striking the cut that he threw at me had he moved offline. That said, I do move directly back. I'm a little bit physically stronger in the upper shoulders than Mikkel, and that's kind of what saved me here. I would have had a better time performing this action had I moved in this direction here to counter his straight line movement directly into my person. But I didn't do that. I relied on my upper body strength. So things that I can improve on, things that Mikkel can improve on. Let's move on.
Good.
All right, let's look at this one here. We're just going to back it up a bit. All right, so I move in Crump to try and displace his blade. I'd come in underneath. He sees that. He sees what I'm doing here, and he moves. Let's back it up a second here. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to occupy his weapon. So I come in, move one way. He knows the strike is coming. I withdraw here because I've gotten him to raise his weapon up, exposing his body. And that's what I'm attempting to do. Now, right here, typically, if you look at the linearness of my feet, what I should be doing is moving towards the weights here. You see the weights in the background that my cursor is around? I should take my back foot and move it in this direction to accomplish this motion. I don't have a lot of space here, but it's still doable, and I didn't do that. I continued straight in, and he was able to see what I was doing, and he brings his sword right back down to parry the incoming strike. Great job seeing the intention from me, especially from a move that I know has landed several times on him. So kudos to Mikkel for seeing that happen and responding accordingly.
Oh, I thought you were coming around the other side.
I got Mikkel by surprise there. Let's back up and see this movement. All right, same kind of thing. I do the same thing here on a different angle. I come in a little out of measure. He can see I'm doing something. Actually, where my sword is and where Mikkel's sword is, if you look at the length of his feet, he's ideally positioned to just thrust underneath and drive up in between my arms. And he'll actually entangle me in his sword, particularly if he lands in the sternum or the throat area. It's a great response. I'm pretty sure Lee has done this to me a couple of times, or more than a couple of times, in sparring matches. Now, he does come up underneath, but he's flattened underneath my elbow as I strike down at him. At first glance, it kind of looks like a double. Because of the position of his sword, my arm kind of knocks it down, and the tip doesn't really land here. And I chop in at his arm and land that cut. So that's something I can improve upon. All right, so here is where I launch. So here we go. He moves to the right. As soon as he lands, I'm moving forward. As you can see, his left foot hasn't landed yet. So I timed this in such a fashion that I wanted to land this Zornort, which Zornort is Zornhau, which is a wrath cut to a thrust point into his face. That one worked out well for me. Let's continue.
A little bit. Yeah. One more. Good.
Yeah, he got the better of me there, and I think that's where we end it. So let's back it up real quick. And so he drops down low, getting ready, a little exposed with the wrath position here. His elbow's kind of exposed there. Comes down, strikes up with the false edge to distract me. Let's back it up there for a second. As soon as he's moving forward, I'm moving back. He comes up and strikes low and gets me again in the hands. I hand parried once more. Something I need to work on. All right, I hope you guys have enjoyed that video. Not the best performance from me. I can do better, and I will endeavor to do so in the future. Really looking forward to sparring Mikkel again. Congratulations to Mikkel for putting in all the hard work. It's really showing. Really proud of you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked today's video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and punch that bell. Don't really punch it, just sort of click it. That'd be good enough. Big thanks to our Patreon supporters. We could not do what we do without you. As I always try to say, if you train how you fight, then you'll fight how you train.